right, welcome to the Deep Dive, everybody. Today, we're going to be taking a close look at this machine, the 2025 Bimota Tesi H2, that's been turning a lot of heads and getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, a lot of buzz.
And our jumping off point for this deep dive is this article, Bimota Tesi H2 review. And they don't really hold back. They call this thing the most radical supercharged hyperbike ever built.
Wow.
So
That's quite a statement right there.
it is.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so interesting, right? I mean, we're not just going to be kind of, looking at the specs on paper.
Right.
We really want to get under the skin of this motorcycle and understand what makes it tick, why all this hype, and does it live up to this reputation as being this extreme motorcycle.
Yeah, and the review right out of the gate really kind of sets the stage. It starts by saying this is not just a motorcycle, but it's a mechanical revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It blends raw power with bizarre but brilliant engineering, and it challenges everything you know about superbikes. What was the first thing that popped out to you from those opening lines?
Well, I mean, right away, that phrase mechanical revolution, right? That kind of sets the stage, right? This isn't just some kind of iteration. This is some kind of fundamental rethinking of what a motorcycle can be. And then you get that phrase, bizarre but brilliant engineering, which I think hints at what really makes this motorcycle so unique.
Okay.
It's really the fusion of Kawasaki's powerhouse H2 engine, which we know is a monster,
Right.
with Bimota's very unconventional hub center steering.
Okay.
So it's this marriage of brute force with this radical chassis approach that's so intriguing.
It's almost like taking a Formula One engine and putting it in a chassis that looks like it came from, a few years in the future.
Mm.
The review, it uses this really striking visual language.
Right.
Talking about a frame that looks like it came from a spaceship, lines that scream aggression.
Mm.
You really get this sense of Italian design turned up to 11.
Yeah.
Mixed with just pure mechanical intent.
That's classic Bimota, right? I mean, they have a history of taking engines from other manufacturers, often the best available, and then applying their own, very distinct and high-end chassis innovations. And I think the Tesi H2 really feels like the culmination of that philosophy. They're taking Kawasaki's supercharged marvel and encasing it in what the review calls Italian madness.
All right, so let's get into the heart of the matter, or the supercharger of the matter, as it were.
Right.
We're talking about a 998cc supercharged inline 4, the legendary engine from the Kawasaki H2. What is the immediate significance of them choosing this engine for this bike?
Well, the Kawasaki H2 engine is really renowned for its shoe grunt and how quickly it delivers that power.
Okay.
The review mentions 228 horsepower, which then jumps to 243 thanks to ram air. Now, ram air is basically like giving the engine an extra lungful of air at high speeds, forcing more air into the intake,
Okay.
boosting combustion efficiency, and ultimately power. So right off the bat, this bike has an exceptional amount of power available.
And we have to talk about the torque figures.
Mm-hmm.
141 Newton meters at 11,000 RPM. Now, for somebody who, maybe isn't as familiar with reading spec sheets,
Yeah.
what does that kind of torque translate to when you're actually on this bike?
Torque is what, gets you moving. Think of it as the twisting force, right?
Yeah.
That much torque, especially coming from a supercharged engine, it means incredibly fast acceleration almost anywhere in the rev range. It's not a gradual buildup. It's there.
Right.
The review mentions instant speed anywhere in the rev range. And I think that really captures it. It's almost like this electric shock, but with the visceral roar of a high-performance engine.
So the claimed top speed is over 300 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
That's over 186 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Putting it in the territory of, some of the fastest vehicles on the planet, period.
Oh, it's incredible.
And you're straddling this thing. It's really hard to even wrap your head around.
It really underscores the extreme engineering and aerodynamic considerations that have gone into the design of this motorcycle.
Right.
I mean, very few riders are ever going to push it to those limits.
Yeah.
But knowing that capability is there, it really kind of speaks volumes about the bike's fundamental design and its no compromise approach to performance.
Okay, so you have this much power on tap. Obviously, being able to shift gears quickly is going to be super important.
Yeah.
And this bike has a 16 transmission with a quick shifter.
Right.
Now, for those listening, a quick shifter allows for super fast upshifts and often downshifts without even having to use the clutch or even close the throttle completely. Why is that so important on a bike like this?
It allows you to maintain momentum during aggressive riding. So, imagine you're accelerating hard. In a traditional setup, you'd have to roll off the throttle, use the clutch to change gears, and that interrupts the flow of power. And the quick shifter, it eliminates that, giving you this seamless, almost uninterrupted acceleration. And it's not just about speed, it also makes the entire riding experience a lot smoother and more engaging, especially when you're really pushing the bike.
So let's get to what really sets this bike apart, both visually and technically.
Yeah.
The aluminum billet frame with hub center steering.
Right.
Can you explain for the listeners at home why this is such a radical departure from the norm, and what are the benefits of this system?
Traditionally, motorcycles have used telescopic forks for the front suspension and steering. The hub center steering replaces those forks with this system of linkages and swing arms that basically separates the steering and braking forces from the suspension. Now, the benefit here, the big benefit, is extreme front end stability, particularly when cornering hard or braking aggressively.
Okay.
It virtually eliminates that nosedive feeling.
Right.
That fork dive that you get with conventional forks. Think about it like this. When you brake hard on a regular bike, the front kind of dips down, which can upset the handling. The hub center steering, it keeps the bike much more level and composed.
Okay, so the suspension components themselves are very high-end. Öhlins TTX 36 shocks, front and rear.
Right.
Now, for those who maybe don't know, what makes Öhlins such a sought-after brand in the world of motorcycles?
They're basically the gold standard when it comes to high-performance suspension. They're TTX 36 shocks. They're fully adjustable, meaning that a skilled rider can really fine-tune how the suspension reacts to bumps and how quickly it returns to its original position. We call that damping and preload. Think of it like a car with adjustable suspension, right? You can make it stiffer for sportier handling or softer for a more comfortable ride. Öhlins offers that same level of precision for motorcycles.
To rein in all this power, the Tesi H2 has dual 330mm Brembo discs with Stylema calipers up front.
Right.
And a 220mm disc with a Brembo caliper at the rear.
Wow.
Now, the review calls this track-level stopping power. What does that mean for the person on the bike?
Well, Brembo Stylema calipers, they're really the top of the line when it comes to motorcycle braking technology. They're incredibly powerful. They offer a huge amount of stopping force with this really precise feel at the lever, even when you're braking hard repeatedly at high speeds.
Okay.
So it's like having brakes that are always ready, always responsive, giving you the confidence to push your limit.
Push it further.
Knowing that, the brakes can handle it.
Of course, even with all this mechanical wizardry, modern bikes are packed with electronics.
Why, of course.
And this is no exception. The Tesi H2 has ride modes, ABS, traction control, launch control, a high-tech TFT dash.
Yeah.
How do all these systems work together to enhance the rider experience?
Well, I think these electronics are really about managing the incredible potential of the Tesi H2, right? Making it more approachable, safer, without, neutering its performance. So, for instance, ride modes let you, select different engine power, delivery, and traction control settings to suit various conditions or your riding style. ABS, or anti-lock braking, helps to prevent wheel lockup during hard braking, while traction control minimizes wheel spin when you're, accelerating hard out of a corner. And launch control helps you get that perfect start off the line. And the TFT dash provides a really clear and modern interface to see all this information and to adjust settings on the fly. So it's really about having technology working with you to really get the most out of the bike.
And it's interesting because for all these advanced components, all this tech, the weight of this thing is surprisingly manageable. 214 kilograms, 472 pounds.
Yeah.
How do you think they achieved that?
It probably comes down to extensive use of lightweight, high-strength materials. You've got the billet aluminum frame, carbon fiber bodywork, the forged wheels. All of that contributes to minimizing weight without sacrificing strength or rigidity. I mean, every component has probably been engineered with weight reduction in mind.
Yeah.
Because, for a bike at this level of technology and power, keeping the weight down is really crucial for agile handling and overall performance.
And then we have to talk about the price, right?
Of course.
The estimated price tag of this bike is over $70,000 US.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
It is. It puts us in a very exclusive category of motorcycles.
Yeah.
What does that kind of price represent, do you think?
I I think it's more than just the cost of materials and manufacturing, right? It
Okay.
also reflects this exclusivity, the cutting edge engineering, the handcrafted nature of it, and the prestige of the Bimota brand.
Yeah.
You're not just buying a motorcycle; you're making a statement.
Let's dig into some of these key features a little bit deeper, starting with that engine.
Yeah.
The review calls out the insane horsepower and this almost electric throttle response of this supercharged engine. Can you describe for our listeners what that would feel like, to be in the saddle of that?
Yeah, so unlike a naturally aspirated engine where the power kind of builds as the revs climb, a supercharger forces more air into the engine across the entire rev range. And that gives you this very immediate, almost electric feeling that the review describes. The power is just, it's instantly available no matter what gear you're in, what speed you're at. It's this very distinct and exhilarating sensation. It's like having this massive reserve of power always, always ready to be unleashed.
We've touched on the hub center steering a little bit, but let's really zero in on that. The review says that it separates the steering from the braking forces,
Right.
leading to this extreme front end stability.
Right.
Why is that such a game changer when it comes to handling?
So on a traditional bike, right, when you brake hard into a corner, the front forks compress.
Right.
And that changes the bike's geometry and can make the steering feel very heavy or less precise.
Okay.
The hub center steering largely eliminates that
Okay.
because the braking forces are transmitted through this different set of linkages.
Interesting.
So the front end remains much more stable and planted during braking, which lets you brake later and harder with more confidence. And the steering remains more neutral and unaffected by braking inputs.
Okay.
So you get this much more precise feel for what the front tire's doing. There have been other attempts at this technology throughout history,
Okay.
but Bimota has really consistently refined and championed hub center steering, and their application of it is particularly noteworthy.
The billet aluminum frame is described as handcrafted and a work of art. Now, aside from just looking really impressive, what are the performance advantages of actually constructing the frame in this way?
Machining a frame from these solid blocks of aluminum billet allows for incredibly tight tolerances and exceptional stiffness.
Okay.
It's like imagine sculpting a frame from this single strong piece of metal, right?
Right.
And that stiffness is crucial for precise handling
Okay.
and feedback. A rigid frame, it resists twisting and flexing under the immense forces that are generated by the engine and during hard cornering.
Yeah.
And that translates to a more stable and predictable ride.
So the fully adjustable Olin suspension is praised in the review and says it can be dialed in for road or track perfection.
It's a really versatile system.
What kind of adjustments are we talking about here, and why is that so valuable?
So Olin's TTX36 shocks, they typically offer independent adjustments for compression damping, which is how the suspension absorbs bumps,
Right.
and rebound damping, which is how quickly it returns after being compressed. They also have preload adjustment, which lets you set the initial sag of the suspension based on your weight and riding style. So this level of adjustability lets you, really fine-tune the suspension's behavior to match, the rider's specific style, the type
Yeah.
of road or track they're on, and even just their personal preferences for comfort and handling. It's about having maximum control over how the bike behaves in different situations.
And the review had a lot of praise for those Brembo Stylema braking systems. It talks about their superb feel and stopping power, even at speed. What is it about their design that makes them so good?
So the Brembo Stylema calipers, they have a monoblock design, meaning they're machined from a single piece of aluminum. And this increased rigidity really minimizes flex under hard braking, which gives you this much more direct and powerful feel at the lever. They also feature optimized internal fluid passages and these cooling fins that help to dissipate heat very effectively, ensuring consistent braking performance even in, really extreme conditions. So less flex in the caliper means more of your braking force is directly translated to squeezing the brake pads against the discs, giving you that superb feel and stopping power.
It's really interesting how the review frames the electronics package on this bike as not taking away from the performance, but actually enhancing it. How do they manage to strike that balance, on a machine like this?
Well, modern motorcycle electronics, they use this whole network of sophisticated sensors to constantly monitor things like wheel speed, lean angle, throttle position, engine RPM, and based on this real-time data,
Right.
systems like traction control and ABS can intervene very subtly and only when necessary to prevent loss of control
Okay.
without really cutting power or breaking force dramatically.
Yeah.
So think of it as like a safety net that's there when you need it, but otherwise it stays out of your way.
Okay.
Ride modes, they offer these preset combinations of these electronic aids that let you tailor the bike's behavior to different riding conditions or your preferred level of assistance.
It's interesting. The review highlights the use of ultra premium materials like carbon fiber, forged wheels, and it kind of paints this picture of, no expense spared. What are the real world benefits of using these types of materials?
So carbon fiber, it's super strong yet very lightweight, which helps to reduce the bike's overall weight, which improves acceleration, braking, handling, agility. Forged wheels are also stronger and lighter than traditional cast wheels,
Okay.
and reducing what we call unsprung weight, which is the weight of components that aren't supported by the suspension, like the wheels and the brakes.
Right.
Dramatically improves how quickly the suspension can react to bumps, resulting in better grip and a more planted feel.
So these materials are all about performance
Absolutely.
and maximizing, what you can get out of it.
Maximizing performance, minimizing weight.
The review talks about the bold aerodynamic design of this bike.
Mhm.
It definitely makes a statement visually. How much does that styling actually contribute to the bike's overall performance?
Well, while aesthetics are definitely a key part of Bimota's design language,
Right.
Elements like the shape of the fairing, even these subtle winglets, they're designed to manage airflow at high speed. They can generate downforce, particularly at the front end, which improves stability and grip when you're, really pushing it.
Okay.
And the overall shape is optimized to reduce aerodynamic drag, which contributes to that impressive top speed.
Hmm.
So, form follows function here.
This bike is a limited production model,
Mm.
which definitely adds to its mystique.
Yeah.
What is it about exclusivity that people find so appealing?
Well, I think limited production, it creates this sense of rarity
Right.
and prestige. It appeals to collectors and enthusiasts who want to own something that's truly unique
Right.
and not commonly seen. And of course, it could potentially lead to the bike, holding or even increasing in value over time. So owning a limited edition machine like this, it sets you apart.
Right.
And I think it signifies a deep appreciation for, that high-end engineering and design. It's like owning a piece of rolling art.
It is interesting. Even on a machine like this, the review points out that it still has, these modern amenities like a TFT display with Bluetooth.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like even on these really performance-focused bikes, these creature comforts are still important.
I think that's true. I think in today's world, riders expect a certain level of integration with their digital lives.
Right.
So the TFT display, offers this high resolution and customizable interface for viewing all the bike's vital information, accessing the electronic settings,
Yeah.
and Bluetooth connectivity lets you pair your smartphone so you can receive calls, listen to music, use navigation apps, and it's all displayed on the bike's screen. It's about blending high performance with modern convenience.
So let's put the Tesi H2 into context a little bit by comparing it to some of its rivals. The review compares it to the Ducati Panigale V4R, the Kawasaki Ninja H2, the BMW M1000RR, and the Yamaha R1M.
Mhm.
What are some of the key differences that stand out to you in that comparison?
Well, I think the most immediate difference is the Tesi H2's unique combination of its radical design.
Right.
That supercharged Kawasaki H2 engine and, of course, that hub center steering. None of the other bikes on this list combine those three things. So, for example, the Ducati Panigale V4R is an incredibly track-focused machine, but it uses a conventional fork.
Yeah.
The Kawasaki Ninja H2 shares the same engine,
Yeah.
but it lacks the Tesi's exotic chassis, and I would argue it's visual drama.
Right.
The BMW M1000RR is a technological tour de force
Right.
with a strong racing pedigree,
Mm.
but it doesn't have the same kind of unconventional design or exclusivity. And the Yamaha R1M, it offers this fantastic blend of performance and technology for its price, but it doesn't have the same kind of shock value or innovation that you get with the Tesi H2 front end.
And the analysis section actually goes into a little more detail on each of these comparisons. For the Ducati Panigale V4R, it says that it's track bred with MotoGP tech, but lacking the Tesi's unique chassis. What's the main takeaway there, do you think, for someone considering both of those bikes?
I think the Panigale V4R is designed with one primary goal in mind.
Okay.
Absolute performance on the racetrack. It's
You
incredibly light, powerful, agile,
Right.
honed by Ducati's years of racing experience. However, its reliance on traditional forks means it doesn't offer the same front end stability and reduced fork dive under braking that you get with the Tesi H2's hub center steering.
Okay.
So if you prioritize that unique handling feel and that visual statement over, pure lap time focused track performance, the Tesi might be a more appealing option.
When it comes to the Kawasaki Ninja H2, which, like we said, shares that supercharged engine, the review says that the Bimota adds artistry, rare design, and sharper cornering capability.
Right.
What's the takeaway there?
So while the Ninja H2 is a brutally fast and impressive machine, the Bimota Tesi H2 really elevates the concept
Okay.
with its more exclusive design, its handcrafted elements, and according to the review, a more refined and sharper handling experience thanks to that hub center steering.
Okay.
So you're paying a premium not just for the engine, but for a more bespoke and technologically distinct overall package.
When it comes to the BMW M1000RR, it's praised in the review for its top-tier electronics and race DNA, but the analysis note that it doesn't match the Tesi's wild design or exclusivity.
Yeah.
What does that tell us?
Well, the BMW M1000RR is a highly advanced sport bike.
Yeah.
It's packed with cutting-edge electronics,
Yeah.
and it has a direct connection to BMW's racing program. It's incredibly capable and track-focused, but it follows a more conventional design philosophy compared to the Tesi H2.
Okay.
And while it's a high-performance machine, its production numbers are higher,
Right.
making it less of a rare and exclusive item.
So if you're looking for something truly unique, the Tesi is...
Tesi has an edge, absolutely.
And lastly, the Yamaha R1M is recognized for its superb balance of technology and value, but it lacks the shock value or innovation of the Tesi H2. What's the core difference in their appeal?
Well, the Yamaha R1M, it offers a significant amount of technology and performance for the price, which makes it a very attractive option
Okay.
in the high-performance sport bike segment. However, it adheres to a more established formula,
Right.
and it doesn't have that groundbreaking chassis design or the same level of visual drama and exclusivity as the Bimota Tesi H2. So it's a more accessible entry into the world of high-end superbikes, whereas the Tesi is really in a different realm altogether.
So let's shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about the design and comfort aspects of this bike. The review really paints this picture of a concept bike that somehow made it into production
Yeah.
with this futuristic and mechanical feel.
Hmm.
And a lot of that is down to the hub center steering, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the most striking visual element of the Tesi H2. The absence of those traditional telescopic forks.
Right.
It's immediately noticeable.
Yeah.
And it gives the bike this really unique and almost otherworldly appearance. You
Yeah.
know, the intricate linkages, the swing arm at the front, it's not hidden away.
Yeah.
It's a key part of the design. They're showcasing the engineering that makes this bike so different.
The review also highlights the exposed trellis subframe as blending this modern and raw industrial design.
Right.
They're not trying to hide the inner workings of this bike.
No, not at all.
Okay.
There's this sense of transparency, right?
Right.
In the design. They want you to see and to appreciate the complexity and the precision of the engineering underneath that sleek bodywork. It's a very deliberate aesthetic choice.
Okay.
And it really emphasizes the bike's technical nature and sets it apart from more traditionally styled machines.
And those carbon fiber accents add some nice contrast to the polished aluminum chassis. The review says it's alien but beautiful. They really put some thought into the materials and how it all looks.
Absolutely. The use of carbon fiber, it not only reduces weight, but it also provides this beautiful textural and visual contrast
Right.
against those machined aluminum components. So this combination of high-tech, lightweight materials with that raw look of the metal creates this very distinctive and premium aesthetic.
And it's interesting because even with this radical design, the review says the ergonomics are surprisingly rider-friendly. With a manageable seat height, handlebars that are aggressive but not extreme, and good seat padding. It's not necessarily what you'd expect from such an extreme-looking bike.
No, it really speaks to Bimota's attention to detail. You
Yeah.
know, they've managed to create this motorcycle that looks like it belongs in a sci-fi film, but can still be ridden, comfortably, at least for extended periods, at least by sport-like standards. And I think that balance between that aggressive riding position for optimal performance and then enough comfort for real-world use is a really crucial aspect that's often overlooked in these ultra-high performance machines.
Even the smaller details, like the LED lights and the mirrors, points out that they're well designed. It seems like every single element on this bike was carefully considered.
Absolutely. And I think that's typical of high-end manufacturers like Bimota, right?
Right.
Every single component, no matter how small, is carefully considered as part of the overall design and functionality. The integrated LED lighting and the sculpted mirrors, they contribute to both the bike's modern aesthetic and its aerodynamic efficiency.
So let's recap some of the advantages that the review lays out. We've got that hub center steering,
Oh, yeah.
the
Yep.
supercharged performance, the exotic design, the precision engineering, the rarity of it, the limited production, top shelf components, the comfort, the surprisingly good comfort for a sport bike, advanced technology, the revival of an iconic brand, and that pure, raw, emotional riding experience.
It's quite a list.
It really is. It's a compelling package.
It really encapsulates the core appeal of the Tesi H2, right?
Right.
It offers this combination of cutting-edge technology, breathtaking power, and unparalleled exclusivity, all wrapped in this visually stunning and surprisingly user-friendly package. It's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about the entire experience.
Of course, no machine is perfect, especially one as extreme as this. The review also lays out some drawbacks to consider.
Of course.
Starting with that price tag.
Yeah.
It is extremely high.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest hurdle for most riders, right?
Right.
The Tesi H2, it's in the ultra premium segment
Right.
of the motorcycle market, and it puts it way beyond the reach of most enthusiasts.
Yeah.
It's an investment for serious collectors
Right.
and those who, demand the absolute best and the most unique.
And limited availability means that, even if you do have the funds to purchase one, actually getting your hands on one might be a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. The production numbers are going to be very low.
Right.
And availability is likely going to be limited to specific markets, which, it enhances its exclusivity,
Right.
but it also makes ownership, a much more complex thing.
And the complex steering system, they point out in the review that it's a different feel compared to traditional forks, and there could be a little bit of a learning curve involved.
Yeah, that's true. Hub center steering does provide a different kind of feedback
Okay.
to the rider compared to conventional telescopic forks. While it offers those advantages in terms of stability,
Right.
riders who are used to the feel of traditional forks might need a little time to adapt to those different sensations and the slightly different steering inputs that are required.
And they point out that it's not ideal for beginners
No.
because of the immense amount of power and the unique handling characteristics of this bike.
Yeah, I mean, a motorcycle with this level of performance and a non-traditional steering system like this, it's definitely not recommended for new riders.
Right.
It really demands a high level of skill and
Yeah.
experience to handle it safely and effectively.
And they also say maintenance could be costly, which I guess, is expected for a bike of this caliber, such a rare machine.
Yeah, I mean, sourcing specialized parts, finding qualified technicians who really know how to work on the Tesi H2, especially with that hub center steering system,
Right. Yeah.
could be challenging, more challenging than with other bikes,
Yeah.
and therefore more expensive.
They say there's minimal storage or practicality, which, it makes sense, right?
Okay.
It's